I have been traveling across universities for years, and I have spoken to thousands of young Americans face to face, and every single time I arrive at a new campus, I see the same pattern repeating itself over and over again. Young people who grew up Christian, who once prayed at night, who once trusted the Bible, who once believed that God loved them and had a plan for their lives, now look at me with doubt, with distance, with anger, or even with emptiness in their eyes. And when I ask them the simplest question, what happened? Why did you leave Christianity? They shrug, they say, I don't know. Or they say, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Or they say, Christianity doesn't fit my life anymore. And that breaks my heart because it means something deeper has gone wrong, something far bigger than one student losing their way. And that's why we must talk honestly about why young Americans are leaving Christianity. Because if we refuse to face the truth, we might lose an entire generation. And once a generation loses its faith, everything collapses, families break, morality disappears, purpose fades, culture rots, hope dies. And when hope dies, everything becomes dark and meaningless. And that is exactly what we see happening right now in America. Young people are living in a time with more comfort, more technology, more entertainment than any generation before them. Yet they are more anxious, more depressed, more lost, and more spiritually empty than ever in history. And they don't even know why they feel that way. So let me tell you the truth, because the truth matters, the truth saves, and the truth will set us free. Young Americans are leaving Christianity not because Christianity has failed them, but because society has failed them. It has lied to them, manipulated them, distracted them, poisoned them, convinced them that they don't need God, and told them that faith is a burden instead of a blessing. First, let's talk about the biggest force attacking faith today. The culture war, Hollywood, social media, and the entertainment world have turned Christianity into a joke, or worse, into the enemy. If you are a Christian at school, they call you ignorant. If you speak about God online, they call you hateful. If you defend biblical values, they call you a bigot. So young people start hiding their faith. They avoid saying they are Christian. They try to fit in. They stay silent because they fear being judged or canceled. And slowly that silence becomes distance. That distance becomes doubt. And that doubt becomes disbelief. So the cultural pressure is real. And every college campus is a battlefield where Christianity is constantly mocked, dismissed, and replaced with something else, something fake, something that gives temporary feelings but destroys the soul. Things like hookup culture, alcohol addiction, fame worship, political ideology, victim mentality, gender confusion, and the obsession with self. This entire generation is told to love themselves, but never to love God. And you can't fill the soul with ego and expect peace to follow. And then there's the education system. For decades, young Americans have been taught that God is not real, that humans are just accidents of random evolution, that life has no ultimate meaning, that truth is relative, that morals are subjective, that religion is a myth, and that science is the only God. So when a student grows up hearing this every day in school, do you think they will still believe what their parents told them about God? Many will not, because their mind has been shaped by professors who mock faith and instead preach ideologies that destroy truth and replace it with confusion. And when the foundation of truth collapses, everything collapses. And then look at the family crisis, broken homes, fatherless families, divorces happening everywhere. Children are growing up without spiritual leadership, without love, without guidance, without discipline, and without seeing what a God-centered family looks like. If a father never takes his children to church, how will they learn to pray? If a mother never talks about Jesus, how will they know his love? So the faith chain gets broken. One generation fails to pass the torch, and the next generation walks in darkness, not understanding what they lost. Another reason young people are leaving Christianity is hurt and hypocrisy. Let's be honest. Some churches have failed. Young people, some leaders have done terrible things. Some Christians have acted without love, without mercy, without grace, and that pain drives some young people away. But here's the truth. Christianity is not ruined by bad Christians, because even hypocrites need Jesus, and Jesus himself is perfect. So don't judge the faith by those who fail to live it. Another huge reason is distraction. Social media has become their God. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, endless scrolling, dopamine addictions, Constant comparisons, fake lives, and fake happiness. It consumes the mind for hours every day, leaving no space for prayer, no room for silence, no time for God. The enemy of faith isn't always hate. Sometimes it's simply noise. And this generation is drowning in noise and distraction, leaving them spiritually deaf and blind. And then there's the rise of nihilism, the belief that nothing matters, that life is meaningless, that morality is just a choice, that happiness is temporary. This ideology spreads like a virus online and in universities, convincing young people that faith is childish, that hope is stupid, that religion is outdated. But I ask them, if life has no meaning, why do you cry when someone dies if morality is relative? Why do you call injustice wrong if love is just chemicals? Why does heartbreak feel like the end of the world? Deep down, every soul knows the truth. We are created by God and for God, and without Him we feel empty because we are empty without Him. Another major reason young Americans leave Christianity is sexual morality conflict. The Bible teaches self-control, purity, and respecting your body as a gift from God, but the world teaches the opposite. Do whatever you want with whoever you want, whenever you want. There's no right or wrong, only pleasure and desire. And when a moral system challenges your lifestyle, many young people would rather reject the system than change their behavior. They don't want God telling them who they should be. They want to be their own God, but no human can replace God and succeed. And then many young people say science disproves God, but that statement itself lacks science. The more advanced science becomes, the more it proves a creator. Fine-tuned universe DNA, information, complexity of life, morality, consciousness, beauty, all scream the existence of God. Science doesn't reject God. Science reveals God, but the system twists science into a weapon against faith, and young minds get trapped believing lies. Another key reason is pain and unanswered prayers. Young Americans experience suffering, heartbreak, sickness, betrayal, and they ask God, where are you if you care? Why am I hurting? And when they don't get a quick answer, they walk away thinking God abandoned them. But God is not a vending machine. Faith is not instant gratification. God uses pain for purpose tests, builds strengths, struggle, builds character. And even when you don't feel God, He is working behind the scenes, preparing victories. You cannot yet understand. Many young Americans also lack purpose. They don't know what they are living for. They chase success, material. Wealth, fame, likes, followers, but when they achieve those things, they still feel lonely, still feel lost, still feel broken, and they don't realize that only God gives purpose and identity, not popularity, not politics, not culture. And then there's the spiritual warfare. The devil knows he can't defeat God, so he attacks God's children. He distracts them, lies to them, isolates them, confuses them, darkens them, so he can pull them away from the light. And many don't even realize it. The enemy has convinced this generation that truth does not exist, that sin doesn't matter, that God doesn't care. But the Bible says the devil is a liar, and stealing the souls of this generation while the world celebrates their so-called freedom. But true freedom only comes from knowing the truth, and the truth is Jesus Christ, and He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Another heartbreaking reason is shame. Young people fall into sin, make mistakes, mess up, and then believe that God could never forgive them, so they run away from the only one who can heal them. The church must do better at showing grace, at reminding them that God's mercy is bigger than every sin, and Jesus died not for perfect people, but for broken people. And then there's the constant claim that Christianity is outdated, but the truth is Christianity has built hospitals, universities, human rights, scientific discovery, equality, justice, hope, love, everything good in Western civilization. The more America abandons Christianity, the more America collapses. Look around, confusion everywhere, depression everywhere, addiction everywhere, violence everywhere, identity crisis everywhere. Why? Because when people lose God, they lose themselves. And that is what is happening to this generation. And still, despite everything, some young people tell me they want proof, they want logic, they want evidence. And I tell them, look at your heart. Why do you crave meaning? Why do you hope for love? Why do you dream of purpose if life is just chance? Why do you act like life matters? Because deep down, your soul knows it was created for something eternal, not temporary. And then I look them in the eyes and say, you are not an accident. You are not a mistake. God designed you. He loves you. He calls you by name. You matter more than you will ever know, and that truth can save a life. It can save a future. It can save a generation. And I refuse to give up on this generation because I have seen what happens when young Americans encounter God again. I have seen atheists cry out in prayer. For the first time, I have seen addicts healed. I have seen broken people restored. I have seen hearts come back to life. I have seen students raise their hands and accept Jesus again with hope in their eyes and joy in their hearts. Faith is not dead. It is waiting to be awakened. And the enemy fears what will happen when this generation returns to God. That is why he is fighting so hard to keep them away, but we will fight harder. We will stand strong. We will preach the truth louder. We will defend our faith boldly because Christianity is not fading. Christianity is rising again through those brave young Americans who refuse to give up. I tell them, do not let culture steal your faith. Do not let society define your identity. Do not let the world tell you who you are. Remember who God says you are, because that is the truth, and the truth will always win. We cannot sit silent anymore. We cannot allow the next generation to walk blindly off a spiritual cliff just because society told them to forget God. America is at a crossroads, and what young Americans choose in the next decade will decide whether this nation rises or falls, because when a country forgets God, that country forgets justice, forgets truth, forgets family, forgets its foundations, and loses its soul. And when a nation loses its soul, it cannot survive. Look around, crime rising. Families collapsing, depression, skyrocketing, schools, failing values, disappearing, and a generation crying for help, but looking in all the wrong places. They try politics to fix pain, but politics cannot heal the human heart. They try money to fix emptiness, but emptiness cannot be bought away. They try pleasure to fix loneliness, but pleasure without purpose only creates deeper pain. And now we have a generation with every worldly desire in their pockets, yet starving spiritually, because the most important part of life has been ripped away. Faith gives people something greater than themselves to live for. And when faith is gone, life becomes a desperate search for meaning where nothing satisfies. So they jump ideology to ideology, cause to cause, movement to movement, trying to belong somewhere, feel something, trying to find purpose. But every new movement eventually disappoints, because anything built without God collapses eventually. And that's exactly what we are seeing across America today. Movements built on rage, jealousy, identity, obsession, gender confusion, and victim culture all promise freedom, but give slavery to sin instead. And when young people discover those promises were lies, they grow cynical, bitter, hopeless, and easier for the enemy to control without God. Truth becomes whatever the loudest voice demands without God. Morality becomes whatever gets applause without God. Human life becomes just biology without value. And that is dangerous, because when society stops believing people are created in the image of God, then anything becomes allowed. Discrimination becomes normal. Violence becomes justified. Evil becomes celebrated, and goodness becomes mocked. This is why Christianity matters, not just for churches, not just for Sunday mornings, but for the entire future of America, because Christianity teaches that every person has dignity, every person has purpose, every person has worth, and that no government, no professor, no society can take that away. And when young Americans lose Christianity, they lose that foundation. They lose identity, they lose belonging, they lose hope. And the tyrants of the world are ready to replace God with themselves, ready to control a generation that has no spiritual protection, ready to take a nation that forgot what it stands for. So I declare this clearly: America will collapse if this generation abandons God. But if they return to God, America will rise stronger than ever before. We have to remind young people that freedom itself comes from God, not from politicians, not from parties, not from institutions, but from God, who gave us free will, truth, and eternal identity. This nation was built on biblical values, and the more we erase that foundation, the faster everything breaks down. And the only way to rebuild is to reconnect with the one who created us. Young people need to understand that Christianity is not a prison. Christianity is not chains. Christianity is not outdated rules. Christianity is liberation. Christianity is the key that unlocks joy, peace, meaning, and a future worth living for. Jesus gave his life so that we could be free from sin, free from fear, free from shame, free from the lies of this world, free from the emptiness haunting this generation. I have seen with my own eyes students transformed by the truth when they encounter God again, tears falling, hope rising, hearts healing, and suddenly life makes sense again. The questions they carried for years start finding answers. The pain starts having purpose. The darkness starts turning into light, because the moment God enters the story, everything changes. We need to create a movement, not just political, but spiritual, a revival that spreads across campuses, churches, communities, and households, a revival that tells every young American that they are not alone, that God still loves them, that the Bible still has power, that Jesus still saves, and that Christianity still wins. We must challenge them to stop running from God and start running toward their true identity. We must speak loudly and courageously, because silence is surrender, and we refuse to surrender this generation to darkness. We must build strong families again. Fathers, leading mothers, nurturing children, growing in faith, because a strong family strengthens the church, and a strong church strengthens the nation. We must rebuild the education system with truth, not ideology. We must use technology to spread light, not distractions. We must bring prayer back into everyday life, not just Sundays, because faith is not a hobby. Faith is the foundation of everything good, and when that foundation is restored, this generation will discover who they were always meant to be: warriors of truth, champions of hope, defenders of faith, leaders with conviction, and future builders who refuse to let America fail. I say directly to every young American listening: stop letting the world tell you who you are. Stop letting your phone shape your soul. Stop living for approval that disappears tomorrow. You are created for greatness, and that greatness comes from God, not from likes, not from followers, not from trends. Real strength is in faith. Real courage is standing for truth when others run away. Real purpose is living for something eternal, not temporary. Every great revival in history started with young people who chose to believe again, who chose to follow God again, who chose to fight for truth again. And I believe this generation can spark the greatest revival America has ever seen. But we must start now before it's too late. We must push back against a culture that destroys innocence. We must challenge ideologies that attack God. We must speak truth, even when the world hates us for it. We must protect our future from those who want a world without God. Because a world without God is a world without love, without beauty, without forgiveness, without hope. And that world is already showing its face in America today, but it will not win. Darkness fears the light. Truth destroys. Lies faith, defeats nihilism. And Christianity has survived empires, wars, persecution, and attacks far worse than what we see today. The church is not weak. The church is not dying. The church is waking up. And this generation will be part of that awakening if we give them the courage to believe again. Because no matter how far they run, Jesus is still ready to take them back. He has never given up on them, and we will not give up either. I tell young people, you have a mission, a calling, a destiny. Do not waste it. Do not ignore it. The future of America depends on you. And I look at them with absolute conviction and say, you are stronger than you think. Your voice matters. Your faith matters. Your choices matter. And what you do today will decide whether your children inherit a nation blessed by God or broken by secularism. So choose wisely. Choose faith. Choose courage. Choose truth. Choose Christianity. Choose God. Because the clock is ticking and the stakes have never been higher. The enemy wants your soul. The culture wants your obedience. The system wants your silence. But God wants your heart, and only one of those leads to life. This is the moment, not tomorrow, not someday. Today is the day. This generation must rise and declare boldly, we choose God. We choose truth. We choose freedom. We choose to fight for our faith. We choose not to abandon what made this nation great. We choose Christianity because Christianity chooses us every single day, and Jesus stands knocking at the door of this generation's heart. But it is time to open that door wide, because revival is waiting, hope is waiting, a future is waiting. And this is the line in the sand. Young Americans must decide who they will follow. Will they follow a world that lies to them, or will they return to the God who loves them? This is not just a choice of religion. This is a choice of destiny. Choose well, choose now. Choose God, and watch America rise again, stronger, freer, brighter, and filled with purpose. Because the generation that rediscovers faith will build the America that generations to come will thank God for. And that is the mission we take forward with courage. Courage to speak, Courage to stand, courage to believe, courage to bring back Christianity to every school, to every home, to every heart that needs healing. We are not finished. We are just getting started. And the greatest chapter of America has not been written yet because God writes the final chapter. Not culture, not politics, not the enemy, but God. And if this generation returns to him, America will shine like never before. So let us stand together. Let us fight for faith. Let us defend the truth. Let us bring God back to the center of our lives and our country before it is too late. Because if we lose this battle, we lose everything. But if we win this battle, we save a generation. And saving a generation means saving a nation. And saving a nation means fulfilling the purpose God placed upon America from the beginning. May God bless America, and may America bless God again.